Exacerbated by climate change, driving severe food shortages and famine conditions in parts of Africa and the Middle East. This is according to the United Nations Secretary General at an emergency press conference to announce that more than 20 million people in northeast Nigeria, South Sudan, Somalia and Yemen are facing famine or a credible risk of famine in the next 6 months. The UN and its humanitarian agencies are appealing for $4.5 billion by the end of March, whilst some $5.5 billion is required for just these 4 countries in 2017.
There's a sense of déjà vu when these images flash across television screens. Countries torn apart by conflict, compounded by severe climate conditions, leaving millions on the verge of death.
These things are repeating themselves, and I believe there are 2 very important factors that explain why they are repeating themselves. One is conflict, and conflict is, of course, having devastating humanitarian consequences. The second is a number of situations of drought are being accelerated by climate change. We always had drought, we always had desertification, but climate change works as a key enhancer of other factors. Desertification, food insecurity, water scarcity. And so not only we have the repetition of crises, but we risk to have more and more and with more devastating consequences.
The UN believes the dire conditions in all 4 countries are man-made. 2 counties in South Sudan are already suffering famine conditions, a situational threshold where at least 20% of households face extreme food shortages. Acute malnutrition rates exceed 30%, and where the death rate exceeds 2 persons per 100,000, among other factors.
Look at this in a comprehensive way.
The UN still believes the worst can be averted.
The lesson from the 2011 Somalia famine was by the time that we declared famine broadly as a world, half those who died had already died. So this is why we're sounding the alarm now, so that we can actually make the difference to avert the catastrophe. And it builds on the enormous advocacy for all 4 countries, which is why we already have in place many of the aid workers and agencies and implementing partners both at international and national level, and working with and through governments where they have that capacity.
Millions now surviving in a space between malnutrition and death, including 1.4 million children. Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.